You've probably heard of Oscar Wilde's The Nightingale and the Rose, right? For most of us, it's this beautiful, heartbreaking story about making the ultimate sacrifice for love. A classic, tragic fairy tale. But what if it's not? Okay, let's really dig into this. What if that tragic surface is just a cover for something way more complex, way more adult? What if this story is actually one of the most detailed and daring metaphors for sexuality in all of Victorian literature? So, you've got two ways of looking at it. On the surface, yeah, it's a noble sacrifice for love. But underneath that, there's this hidden layer we're going to unpack. A step-by-step allegory of physical intimacy that actually contrasts pure, transcendent love with shallow lust. So where do we even start looking for clues? Well, it all begins with Wilde's incredibly specific, almost provocative choice of words. And trust me, none of this is accidental. He's laying out a map for us. You see, what's so interesting here is the repetition. He doesn't just say it once. He repeats her breast, a word just loaded with feminine and vulnerable feelings, and has her press it against that thorn all night long. It's so clear he wants us to focus on this very physical, very intimate connection. I mean, let's be honest, this imagery is not exactly subtle, is it? The sharp thorn piercing the soft flesh of the bird. It's pretty unmistakable phallic symbolism. It's a direct metaphor for physical union, for penetration. And just in case there was any doubt left, the rose tree itself whispers this command: press closer. That simple phrase changes everything. Suddenly, it's not just a bird on a branch, it's an intimate, urgent act, and it's being guided by this commanding voice. But look, it's not just about the specific words Wilde is using. It's about the entire world he builds around them. He creates the perfect, moody atmosphere for this secret, passionate encounter. The whole thing happens at night. And that's no coincidence. I mean, nighttime has always been the domain of lovers, right? It's a time for privacy, for intimacy, a time when you're away from the judging eyes of the world. Wilde is setting a very specific stage here. And there's this urgency, this warning from the rose tree that just cranks up the passion. It perfectly mirrors that kind of breathless impatience of lovers, racing against the dawn to connect before the real world comes rushing back in. Okay, so now we're getting to the absolute heart of the allegory. Wilde uses the Nightingale's song as more than just a beautiful sound. It's an auditory blueprint, a map of the physiological stages of a sexual encounter. Just check out how the song progresses. It's a brilliant map of intimacy. It starts gently with arousal, singing about a boy and a girl. Then the intensity builds. It gets louder and louder, maturing into the plateau of passion between a man and a maid. And then we get the climax, that one last burst of music, which is followed by the quiet resolution. And notice who feels this climax. It's the rose, the partner in this act. The Nightingale's final burst of music makes the rose tremble with ecstasy. And Wilde, being a master of words, chose that one specifically for its double meaning, both spiritual transcendence and the peak of physical pleasure. This all leads us to this fascinating literary concept called la petite mort, which is French for the little death. And the Nightingale's actual death in the grass is the most literal physical representation of this idea you can imagine, that complete exhaustion and release of energy after the peak of intimacy. So the big question is, why? Why would Wilde go to all this trouble to create such a complex, hidden metaphor? Well, it all comes down to what he's trying to say about what love really is. And here's where it all clicks into place. You've got the student's desire, which is just shallow, possessive lust. He wants the girl like an accessory. But the Nightingale's act, that's something else entirely. It's a total, all-in commitment, a love that completely fuses a physical act with a deep spiritual sacrifice. So ultimately, what Wilde is arguing through the Nightingale is that true love elevates the physical. It transforms sexuality from something fleeting and selfish into a transcendent spiritual union, something so powerful it can create profound beauty, even if it costs a life. It completely changes how you see the story, doesn't it? And, it leaves us with this really fascinating question. If a so-called children's story can hide an allegory this deep, this complex, how many other classics that we think we know are just sitting there, hiding secrets in plain sight?